And joining me on 2WEB is Matt Dickerson. We are talking technology. Good morning, Matt. How are you going?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Chris. I'm always going well. Whenever we're talking technology, that's I'm in my happy place.
That's your happy place, and that's good to know. We're talking about another house. What about 3D prints? You can 3D print lots of things, but what about a house?
It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it, Chris? Imagine 3D printing a house, but that's exactly what's just happened over in Europe at the moment. Obviously, you need a pretty big 3D printer to be able to 3D print a house. And this isn't about printing the components for a house. This was actually printing the entire house. So the first thing they had to do was obviously set up a huge printer, a robot printer that was designed to print this two-storey house. And the material they used, I mean, we've often seen those 3D printers in various shops around the place that have got plastic that feeds in and they print some wonderful little shape that you can sit on the shelf as a little trinket. But this was quite practical, and they were using concrete as their material, not a plastic. So they actually fed concrete through, and it was fascinating. Obviously, we're on radio, so it's not a visual medium, but I've actually watched a video of it in operation, and it was quite incredible to see the walls being constructed, and at the end of it, you looked like basically a row of bricks had been laid on each row, but of course it was just a continuous stream of concrete as it built up the actual layers of the house until you finally got it there. The actual print time was quite incredible. 15 days of print time was all it needed. Now, it was actually spread out over a few months because there were students who were working on the project and they had to still work with their normal studies, so they couldn't work on the project full time. But this particular manufacturer of this robot printer says that 15 days print time is a reasonable time frame. So realistically, you could probably print a full house and have it effectively fitted out maybe within a month. It was quite incredible, especially this is a two-storey house built in basically not perfect conditions. Basically, roll the printer up, set it go, and come back a month later and there's your house.
Fascinating. We live in a country where we do not get many earthquakes, which is a great thing. I think the last one was Newcastle over in New Zealand. It's a different story. They get them more frequently. But could your phone help warn you of an earthquake if it happens?
Yeah, look, our phones are quite incredible things, and they've got some pretty sensitive equipment on them, including accelerometers. Now, this is California where the focus has been for this particular article, and in California there are some very sensitive pieces of equipment that are installed in the crust of the earth to try and warn Californians about earthquakes. And it's not just California, obviously it happens around the world, to try and warn them as early as possible. And the idea is that if you can get a few seconds warning, then you can pull over to the side of the road, or if you're standing out in the open where you might have things come down on top of you, you might be able to move to somewhere safer. So some seconds of warning mightn't sound like much, but it can be the difference between injury or not injury, or in extreme circumstances, can be the difference between death and living. And so what they're actually doing at the moment with the Android operating system is they're building into the operating system the accelerometers being used to warn people about earthquakes. It won't be an app you'll have to download or install. It will just be something you turn on within the operating system. And if your phone and phones around you start to notice some seismic activity just through the accelerometers, it will then send out an alert to all the phones in your area. Now again, the accelerometers aren't quite as expensive or quite as sensitive as the ones that are installed by governments, but there are so many of them. So many people have got phones sitting on their desks, sitting in their pockets, sitting about the place, and all of those ones, what Google believes is that they can crunch data really well, and they believe that if they get enough information from all of these phones, they can actually alert people early and give them many seconds of warning before the earthquake actually hits so they can take some action about it. So it's a great example of all this technology being used for the greater good.
Now, petrol, that's a topic, a hot topic for people. People always want to try and save money at the bowser, and thanks to the coronavirus, we did get a positive because the cost of oil has dropped with the global recession that we're in. Can technology save you money at the petrol bowser, Matt?
Yeah, I think it can. And there's some proof from Griffith University that Queensland Motorists have been doing exactly that. There's an app and there are various websites you can go to and you actually download the information and actually keep an eye on it. And what Griffith University did was they looked at the information there, looked at how much people were using it, and the usage of those sites has gone up by double over the last 2 years. So those apps and websites were used by Queenslanders 600,000 times a month at the moment compared to 350,000 times a month in 2018. So Queenslanders have gotten onto it, Queenslanders are doing it, and it's not just Queenslanders, just this particular study was focused on Queenslanders. And so they were finding that if people were checking those things and they were making regular checks and looking at the apps or looking at the website, As an example, people in Brisbane were saving on average $179 a year, the Gold Coast $139, in regional areas not as much. So for example, Mount Isa, they were saving $66 a year. But it seems like reasonable savings for something that isn't that difficult to do. Put the app on your phone, check a website every now and again, before you fill up. Obviously you're not filling up every day, so if you've got that on there, then you can check on a regular basis and see what the best price is, and then make a decision sometimes around when you buy petrol, because there are certain days where petrol is cheaper. So good little tip, download the app, look on the website and check. Obviously some of the areas that TWEB goes into, there's not a lot of choices of petrol, but still it keeps those guys honest if you know what petrol prices are around the area.
Now, Matt, I'm the owner of an Oral-B electric toothbrush, and since I've been using it, my teeth have been really good. I didn't look after my teeth as a young kid,
right?
But the Oral-B toothbrush has done some amazing things for me. Now, Oral-B spent 6 years researching its newest toothbrush. Was it worth it?
Well, I think it was actually. There's a few things that they've introduced in this particular toothbrush, and 6 years seems like a long time to research a toothbrush. But it gives you an idea of the amount of money that is in toothbrush. But basically, they've done a few things. First of all, they've put a new motor in, and the new motor basically is more powerful, is more efficient at translating the battery power into some actual motion on there. But the thing that I get most excited about is when people ask me about anything in technology these days, my standard response is, I think there's an app for that. Now, I wouldn't have said there was an app for that with toothbrushes until I read this article about the Oral-B. There's an app for that. And what the app does is you sit the app on the bench on your phone, and as you clean your teeth, it actually works out where your toothbrush is on your teeth and then translates that to a little image on the app to show you where you need to keep cleaning on your teeth and make sure you've done all of your teeth properly. And when you start using it, I've read a few reviews on it, when you start using it, people don't realise how little attention they pay to certain parts of their mouth, certain teeth that they've got, and by using the Oral-B toothbrush with the app, you actually learn to clean your teeth better. And I think that's part of what the process is. It's about learning to clean your teeth better. And so I think from that perspective, tracking what you're doing, you can make it a game for kids where they can actually see how they're going, get points for what they're doing with their cleaning of their teeth. So I think in general, great toothbrush from a physical point of view, but once you start building in Bluetooth, look, everything's better with Bluetooth, I think, Chris. So once you start building in Bluetooth with the toothbrush, then you get something that can be very effective to help us all clean our teeth better.
Amazing. Well, thanks very much for joining us today. Now, of course, people can listen and watch your segment on YouTube. Is that right?
Absolutely. So after we basically record these, Chris, then I actually record the video of those sitting in my home studio now with COVID-19. I can't go into many radio stations, and then I post those on YouTube. So if you just search for 2WEB Matthew Dickerson, then you'll find these videos posted, usually by within 24 hours they're posted, Chris.
Thanks for talking technology today, Matt.
We'll talk again next week, Chris.